The war between Earth and the alien empire did not begin with noise. It began with silence. No speeches, no warnings, no dramatic messages sent across space. Ships vanished, colonies went dark, and entire cities stopped answering. By the time humans understood there was a war, millions were already gone. For 12 long years, the fighting continued in quiet waves. Not loud battles, but slow destruction. Trade routes burned, planets starved, and both sides learned the same truth. Winning was possible, but surviving was not. The alien empire was powerful, ancient, and disciplined. They did not hate humans. They simply did not trust them. To the aliens, humans were loud, emotional, and unpredictable. To humans, the aliens were cold, cruel, and unstoppable. When both sides finally reached exhaustion, Earth made a decision that shocked even its own leaders. No fleet, no threat, no hidden weapons. They would send one person, a single negotiator. He was not a soldier. He did not wear armor. He carried no weapon. He was not famous, brave in stories, or trained to kill. He was calm, quiet, and ordinary. His name did not matter. What mattered was his voice. The ship carrying him entered alien space, without escort. Alien war vessels surrounded it, weapons active, engines humming like distant storms. One wrong move would end everything, but the ship was allowed to pass. The negotiation hall was massive and empty. Its walls were tall and smooth, carved from black metal older than human history. The air was cold and thin. Alien guards stood in perfect lines, tall figures with glowing eyes and unmoving faces. At the far end of the hall stood a throne. It was not decorated. It did not need to be. Power filled the space around it like gravity. This was where the alien queen would appear. She was spoken of in fear and myth. A ruler who never hesitated. A leader who never showed mercy. A queen who had never been seen in public by any human before. The human negotiator walked forward alone. Every step echoed. Every guard watched him. Every weapon tracked his movement. Then the queen arrived. She did not walk. She emerged as if the air itself opened for her. Tall, pale, eyes like frozen stars. Her presence crushed sound. Even the guards lowered their gaze. This was the being who had ordered worlds burned. This was the being who had never lost a war. Silence filled the hall. The human stopped at the marked line on the floor. He stood straight, hands open, breathing slow. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times. He spoke his first sentence. Not loud, not proud, just calm, respectful words meant to open peace. Before the sentence could finish, everything broke. The alien queen froze. Not slowly, not thoughtfully. She stopped as if time itself had struck her. Her eyes locked on the human. Her hand tightened on the throne. The hall erupted into chaos. Guards shifted, weapons powered up. Energy blades formed in the air. Alien commanders shouted orders in sharp sounds. The silence shattered into panic. The human did not move. He did not understand what he had done. He only felt the room turn hostile. Cold fear crawled up his spine. The queen raised her hand. The hall fell silent instantly. She stared at the human. Her voice, when it came, was not loud. It was shaken. That voice, I have heard it before. The words hit the room like a shockwave. The guards exchanged confused looks. The commanders froze. No one had ever heard uncertainty in the queen's voice. The human swallowed. He did not recognize her. He did not remember ever speaking to an alien queen. He opened his mouth to answer. The queen stood. Her eyes burned with something dangerous. Her voice hardened, sharp and final. Kill him. Weapons locked instantly. Energy surged. The human closed his eyes. Then, stop. The single word cut through everything. The queen's hand trembled as she lowered it. The weapons powered down. The guards froze mid-step. She stared at the human as if seeing a ghost. As if a memory long buried had clawed its way back to life. The hall remained silent. The war hung in the balance. And somewhere in the queen's past, a voice refused to stay forgotten. If you want to know why this moment mattered, and why a single voice could shake an empire, make sure you are subscribed to this channel and continue the journey. The alien empire was built on one rule. Mercy was weakness. From the first day an alien learned to stand, they were taught the same truth. Hesitation led to death. Compassion invited betrayal. Forgiveness erased authority. The empire did not grow large because it was kind. It grew because it was exact. Cold decisions, clean endings, no doubts. At the center of this belief stood the queen. She was not chosen by birth alone. She was chosen because she never paused, never questioned herself, never allowed emotion to change outcome. In 1,000 judgments, she had never stopped an execution once ordered. Not for fear, not for regret, not for memory. That was why the court was now terrified. The queen stood before the human, unmoving. Her earlier command still echoed in the minds of the court members. Kill him. Then the impossible had followed. Stop. The alien nobles did not speak. They did not breathe loudly. Some did not blink. Confusion spread through the chamber like poison. If the queen hesitated, what did that mean for the empire? The guards waited for correction, for the order to be reissued, for blood to erase the moment. But the queen remained silent. Inside her mind, something ancient stirred. She had not felt this sensation since before the throne, before the wars, before the crown carved discipline into her bones. A sound pressed against her thoughts. Not words. A tone. A rhythm. A calm that did not belong in fear. Fragments rose against her will. Darkness. Pain. A broken ship buried in alien soil. Cold metal. Failing systems. Blood on unfamiliar hands. She crushed the images down instantly. This was weakness. Memory was a flaw. The court watched her eyes. They flickered once. Just once. That alone sent fear through the chamber. The human still stood where he had been ordered to die. He did not understand the danger he was in. He did not see the invisible war taking place behind alien eyes. To him, the room felt heavier, the air thick with threat, every guard still close enough to kill him in a heartbeat. He waited, not because he was brave, but because there was nothing else to do. The queen finally moved. She stepped down from the throne, each step controlled, precise. The sound echoed through the chamber like judgment. She stopped a short distance from the human, close enough to study him, close enough to end him without command. Her voice was steady again, but something sharp hid beneath it. Where did you learn to speak like that? The question stunned the court. This was not interrogation. This was not accusation. This was curiosity. The human blinked. He did not understand the meaning behind her words. He had expected questions about Earth fleets, about borders, about surrender. He answered honestly, slowly. I learned it from my work. I talk to people who are scared. I help them stay calm. There was no pride in his voice, no challenge, no hidden strength. The queen felt it again. That same rhythm, that same calm pressure pushing against old memory. Her claws curled at her side. Anger surged first, not at him, at herself. Fear followed, sharp and unwelcome. Fear was something she had erased from her life long ago. Yet it returned now, carried by a human voice. The court sensed the shift. Alien commander stiffened. This was dangerous territory. The queen's mind fought itself. Logic against instinct. Empire against past. She studied the human more closely now. His posture was neutral. His eyes steady but not defiant. His voice carried no threat. That was what unsettled her most. He did not sound like prey. He did not sound like an enemy. He sounded like someone who expected to be heard. Her jaw tightened. This could not be allowed. If the court saw doubt, they would remember it. If they remembered it, they would question it. The queen turned sharply. Her voice rang through the chamber, clear and absolute. Seal the hall. The command snapped the court into action. Massive doors slid shut, locking with deep metallic force. Energy barriers rose, cutting off all signals, all exits. No one would leave. No message would escape. The human's heart pounded now. He realized this was no longer negotiation. This was containment. The queen faced him again, her expression unreadable, her eyes cold, but burning underneath. Whatever memory had answered his voice was no longer sleeping, and the empire would not allow ghosts to decide its future. The war had paused, but something far more dangerous had awakened. The queen stood silent while the hall remained sealed. To the court, she looked calm again, controlled, perfect. But inside her mind, the past had broken free. She had not thought of that time in many cycles. She had buried it beneath victories, beneath fire, beneath law. But the human voice had found it. Before the war, before the crown, before she learned how to rule without mercy. She remembered falling. Her ship had been small, fast, built for command patrol. A simple mission along the outer edge of disputed space. No threat expected, no escorts assigned. Confidence had been her mistake. The ambush came without warning. Human weapons, primitive but desperate. Her shields failed, engines burned. The ship tore through atmosphere and vanished into darkness. She remembered the crash. Metal screaming, systems dying, pain flooding her body. Then silence. When she woke, the world was wrong. The sky was low and heavy. The ground rough beneath her armor. Her leg crushed. Her side burning. Her communicator was dead. Her weapon lost. Her ship broken beyond repair. For the first time in her life, she was alone. She tried to move, failed. Pain stole her breath. Night fell quickly, cold and complete. In the Empire, captured commanders were executed. Wounded enemies were finished without question. She waited for death. Instead, she heard a sound. Footsteps slow, careful. Not running, not hunting. Her body tensed, instinct screaming. She prepared to die fighting, even without strength. Then a voice spoke from the dark. Easy. Not shouted. Not sharp. Just calm, steady, human. She did not understand the words at first, but she understood the tone. The voice did not carry fear. It did not carry hatred. It carried patience. She tried to reach for a weapon that was not there. The voice continued. I'm not here to hurt you. You're injured. She had never heard a human speak like that. No threats. No commands. No anger. A figure stepped into the weak light. Not a soldier. No armor. No weapon raised. Just a human. Clothes torn. Hands empty. Eyes alert but gentle. He stopped several steps away. Careful not to move too fast. Careful not to frighten her. She hissed a warning, baring teeth. Ready to fight with nothing left. The human raised his hand slowly. I know you're scared. I would be too. The words confused her. Humans were not supposed to understand fear like this. She expected pain. A blade. A shot. Instead, he sat down on the ground. Far enough away to be safe. Close enough to be heard. I'm going to stay right here. You don't have to trust me. But you don't have to die tonight either. Time passed strangely after that. The pain faded into background noise. The cold stayed. The darkness deepened. The human kept talking. Not questions. Not demands. Stories. Simple things. About storms, about mistakes, about people he missed. She listened despite herself. Her breathing slowed. Her fear dulled. When she drifted toward unconsciousness, his voice pulled her back. Stay with me. Just keep listening. He treated her wounds as best he could. Careful, clumsy, but gentle. Never once did he strike. Never once did he threaten. She asked why. Her voice weak, rough, broken. Why don't you kill me? The human answered without hesitation. Because you're hurt. And because you're still alive. That answer had followed her ever since. The night stretched on. He stayed awake while she slept. She woke to his voice again and again. Each time calmer, weaker, safer. When dawn came, she was no longer alone. And somehow, that frightened her more than the crash. She never learned his name. Never gave him hers. Rescue came hours later. Alien forces drove him away. By the time she was lifted from the planet, the human was gone. Lost among smoke and chaos. Just another voice swallowed by war. The Empire told her the encounter meant nothing. Humans were dangerous. Mercy was error. Compassion was weakness. She believed them. She had to. Years later, she became queen. And she burned worlds without remembering his voice. Until now. The queen's eyes fixed on the human negotiator standing in her hall. His posture. His calm. The way he spoke without pressure. It was the same. Not the words. The voice. Her breath caught for the first time in decades. A sensation she had forgotten how to name. She studied his face carefully now. Older. Harder. Marked by time. But the voice was unchanged. The same voice that had kept her alive in the dark. The same voice that had refused to let her die. Her claws tightened. The truth settled into her chest like a weight. The human before her was not just a negotiator. He was a memory the Empire had failed to erase. And if the court learned what he truly was to her, nothing would ever be the same again. The Queen straightened, masking the storm inside her. But her decision had already begun to crack. Because she now knew something no one else did. The war had started with weapons. But it might end with a voice she could never forget. The Queen did not speak again in the main hall. Instead, she turned and walked toward a side passage carved into the black walls. Her guards hesitated, then followed. She did not look back when she spoke. Bring the human. The command left no room for refusal. The human negotiator felt his chest tighten. This was not part of any plan he had trained for. Private chambers meant secrets. Secrets meant danger. 2 guards stepped close, not touching him, but close enough to end his life in a breath. He followed the Queen through corridors that curved and twisted like veins inside a living body. The chamber they entered was smaller, warmer. The walls were dark stone instead of metal. Light came from a single source above, soft and low. The doors sealed behind them. This time, there were no witnesses. The Queen stood with her back to him for a long moment. The silence stretched, heavy and deliberate. The human cleared his throat carefully. Your Majesty, I am here to negotiate peace. If I have offended, you saved my life once, the Queen said. The words struck him harder than any weapon. He froze, mind racing. I think you are mistaken, he said slowly. I have never met you. The Queen turned then. Her eyes locked onto his face, searching, measuring. Do not lie, she said. Not angry, but sharp. You spoke to me in the dark. The human frowned, confusion real and unguarded. I speak to a lot of people. I work rescue. Crisis zones, damaged ships, disasters. She stepped closer, on a dead world. At night. You told me to stay awake. The memory hit him suddenly. Not clear, not sharp, but heavy. His breath caught. He looked away, then back. There was an incident, he said quietly. Years ago. An unknown alien crash. I was sent in after fighting stopped. The Queen watched his face change. Watched recognition grow, slow and reluctant. You were injured, he continued. I didn't know who you were. You were just someone bleeding. You did not report me, she said. I didn't have time, he replied. You wouldn't have lived long enough. The Queen felt something twist inside her chest. She clenched her hands behind her back. You spoke all night, she said. You told stories. He nodded faintly. That's how shock works. People panic less when they hear a calm voice. Her jaw tightened. To you, she said. I was a task. He met her gaze, honest and unguarded. Yes. The word hung between them, dangerous and clean. I was a rescue operator, he continued. Not a hero. I didn't save worlds. I saved minutes. The Queen turned away again. To me, she said quietly. You were everything. Silence fell, thick and fragile. You showed mercy, she continued, without knowing what I was. You treated me as alive, not as enemy. He shifted, uncomfortable. That's just human protocol. We help first. That is not protocol, she snapped, then stopped herself. That is weakness. Maybe, he said calmly, but it keeps people alive. She laughed once, sharp and humorless. That weakness destroyed worlds. She faced him again, eyes burning now. When I returned, she said, I told my council humans could not be trusted. Not because they were cruel, but because they were unpredictable. He listened, silent. I feared voices like yours, she continued. Voices that hesitate. Voices that care. Her hands trembled slightly. I built this war to erase doubt. The confession hung heavy. The human understood then. This war was not born of hate. It was born of fear. You didn't attack us because we were strong, he said. You attacked because we reminded you of mercy. She did not deny it. I became queen by proving I could burn memory, she said. And then you stood in my hall. He took a slow breath. I never meant to haunt you. I know, she said, voice low. That is why it is unbearable. The silence stretched again. Two beings standing at the edge of history. Finally, the Queen spoke the question she had been holding back. Her voice was steady, but something beneath it was fragile. If I spare Earth, she said, if I end this war, will your people spare me? The human felt the weight of it. This was not a political question. This was survival. He did not answer immediately. He chose his words carefully. I cannot promise what fear will do, he said, but I can promise this. Humans remember who chose peace. The Queen searched his face, looking for lies, for weakness, for strength. The doors remained sealed. The fleets outside still waited, weapons still charged, and the fate of two civilizations rested not on power, but on whether mercy could survive being remembered. The sealed chamber felt smaller now, not because the walls had moved, but because the choice inside it had grown too large, far beyond the chamber, beyond the palace, beyond the planet. Earth Command watched in silence. Signals delayed, feeds limited, but the tension clear. Human leaders spoke in clipped voices. This is not the time for softness. Do not show weakness. Peace must not look like surrender. They feared the Queen. They feared her mercy more. At the same time, alien generals gathered in armored halls, their voices sharp with anger. The human is a liability. He destabilizes the Queen. End him and restore order. To them, mercy was not just weakness. It was danger. Inside the private chamber, none of those voices were allowed. No commands, no armies, no fleets. Only the Queen and the human stood facing each other. Two survivors of different worlds. The Queen broke the silence first. You understand what you ask, she said. If I stop this war, I expose myself. The human nodded. And if you continue it, he replied, you destroy what little trust remains. She studied him carefully. You do not threaten me. I never did, he said calmly. Her eyes narrowed. You could. I won't, he answered. Threats end talks. She felt anger rise, then fall. This human refused to play the game of power. Why, she demanded. Why do you still speak this way? He thought for a moment before answering. Because fear is loud, he said, and calm makes people listen. She turned away, pacing slowly. You speak as if your people are gentle. He shook his head. We are not. That surprised her. We make mistakes, he continued. We panic. We hurt each other. She stopped listening. We are not strong because we are perfect, he said. We are strong because we remember. She faced him again. Remember what? Who helped us? Who chose not to kill when it would have been easy? The Queen felt the words settle deep. Dangerous words. You believe memory can stop war, she said, skeptical. I believe memory can slow it, he replied. Sometimes that's enough. She clenched her fists. Her entire empire was built on forgetting mercy, forgetting doubt. And if I choose peace, she said slowly, my generals will call it betrayal. They might, he said, but they will also remember who saved them from endless war. She laughed bitterly. You assume they want saving. I assume they are tired, he answered. The Queen felt it then. The exhaustion she had hidden behind command. The endless reports. The burning worlds that never brought satisfaction. She stopped pacing. You give me a choice, she said. Yes. Not a demand. Never. Not an ultimatum. No. Her voice dropped. And if I choose war? Then I will leave, he said simply, and history will remember this moment. That frightened her more than any weapon. Outside the palace, the alien fleet began to move. Energy cores flared, weapon systems aligned. A low vibration spread through space like a heartbeat. The chamber lights dimmed slightly, responding to the power surge. The Queen felt it instantly. Her generals were preparing to force her hand. She turned toward the sealed doors, her jaw tight. Time was running out. The human felt the change too, the hum of something massive waking up. They are charging weapons, he said quietly. Yes, she replied. They believe mercy has already gone too far. The queen stood still, caught between two futures. One written in fire, one written in memory. Outside, fleets prepared to burn worlds again. Inside, a queen had to decide whether strength meant control, or the courage to stop. And for the first time since taking the throne, she was no longer sure which choice would cost her more. The great doors of the public court opened slowly. Metal groaned as ancient locks released. Every sound echoed like a warning. The queen stepped forward alone. No guards beside her. No weapons raised. The court fell silent instantly. Alien nobles, generals, commanders, all turned toward her. At the center of the hall, the human stood exactly where he had been left. Hands open, posture calm, surrounded by soldiers who waited for blood. This was the moment they expected. The correction, the execution that would erase doubt. The queen walked past the human, without looking at him. She climbed the steps of the throne slowly, deliberately. Every movement watched, analyzed, feared. She did not sit. That alone sent unease through the court. Her voice carried clearly across the hall. "I have delayed judgment," she said. "Minds have questioned this delay." Murmurs rippled, quickly silenced. "I will explain," she continued. No queen had ever explained herself before. The alien general stiffened. This was dangerous. She turned, facing the full court, facing her empire. "Before the war," she said, "before I wore this crown, I was weak." Gasps echoed. Weakness was not spoken. "I was wounded," she continued, "stranded on a human world. Alone." The court froze, some in disbelief, some in fear. "I expected death," the queen said. Instead, I heard a voice. Her gaze shifted, just briefly, toward the human, a voice that did not threaten, a voice that did not hate, a voice that stayed. The silence in the hall was absolute now. "I live because of that voice," she said. "Not because of strength. Not because of power." Alien commanders exchanged looks. This confession was unheard of. "When I returned," the queen continued, "I feared that voice. I feared what it reminded me of. That mercy could exist without control." Her voice hardened. "So I burned it out of memory. And I built a war to silence it." The words hit harder than any weapon. "This war was not born from strategy," she said. "It was born from fear." The court shook with stunned disbelief. The queen raised her hand. And today that voice returned. All eyes turned to the human. "He did not demand," she said. "He did not threaten. He did not beg. He reminded me." Her claws tightened. "Of what we forgot." She stood taller then, presence filling the hall. "I am ending this war," she declared. The words took a moment to register. Then chaos erupted. Shouts, protests, alarms. Generals stepped forward. "This is madness," one cried. "The fleets are ready." The queen's voice cut through them like steel. "Power down the fleets." Outside the palace, across orbit and deep space, orders transmitted. Energy cores dimmed. Weapons shut down one by one. The hum of war faded into silence. Earth Command stared at their displays in disbelief. Signals confirmed again and again. Alien weapons offline. Attack vectors canceled. On the alien side, shock spread like fire. An empire built on conquest stood still. The human did not move. He did not smile. He did not speak. He simply stood, breathing steady. The queen turned back toward him now. And for the first time, her voice softened in public. "You will not be harmed," she said. "Not now. Not ever." She raised her hand again. "I issue a decree." The court leaned forward, afraid to breathe. "This human," she said, "will leave this world under my protection. No harm will come to him. No record will mark him as enemy." The human met her eyes then, silent acknowledgement passing between them. The queen paused, then added quietly, "And his voice will be remembered." The hall remained frozen. The war was over, but something else had begun. The queen lowered herself onto the throne at last, heavier than before, but clearer. Outside, stars burned quietly again. No weapons, no alarms, only the echo of a choice that would reshape history. And the empire waited to learn what mercy would cost them next. The treaty was signed without celebration. No banners. No victory speeches. Just quiet agreement written into history. Human and alien symbols pressed into the same surface. A mark that said the fighting would stop. Not because one side won, but because both sides remembered why they had started. Across space, fleets returned to patrol routes instead of battle lines. Damaged worlds were left to heal. Trade paths reopened slowly, carefully. The human negotiator watched it all from a distance. He did not step forward. He did not claim credit. Earth leaders wanted to name him a hero. They spoke of medals, of statues, of stories to inspire. He refused. "I did not win anything," he said calmly. "I just talked." The queen heard this through reports, and something close to a smile crossed her face. When the final session ended, she addressed both sides one last time. Her voice carried strength, but also honesty. "Wars are started by power," she said, "but ended by voices." The words spread across networks. Quoted, repeated, studied. Then the human returned home. No escort, no parade, just a small ship slipping back into familiar space. Life on Earth continued. Cities rebuilt. Children learned new star maps. The human returned to his work. Rescue calls. Disaster zones. Calm words spoken into chaos. But the universe had changed. Among the alien worlds, a new rule formed quietly. Not written in law. Not enforced by fleets. Before attacking, they listened. Before striking, they asked. They no longer feared human weapons. They understood those. They could measure them. What they feared was human empathy. The strange weakness that crossed lines. That spoke to enemies in the dark. That stayed when leaving would have been easier. Story spread of a queen who stopped a war. And of a human who never raised a weapon. Most did not know his name. And that was how he preferred it. The queen ruled differently after that. Not softer, but wiser. And when disputes rose, she asked one question before choosing violence. Has anyone spoken yet? Far away, on a quiet human world, a voice continued its work. Unnoticed, uncelebrated it. And the universe remembered the truth it had almost forgotten. The war ended not with a gun, but with a voice that refused to hate.